if we are in a situation where we have a contested election, that does create quite a bit of uncertainty. When we had a contested election previously, markets suffered increased volatility, so do you think that if we fall into a situation where the election is contested or the votes on the day are looking more even and Trump declares victory, but later mail-ins demonstrate that Democrats took the election, that we could expect increased volatility in the markets as a result of that uncertainty?
Listen, I mean, I think that's short term. You could go back to 2000 and the Bush-Gore. There was 37 days of uncertainty. The markets were slightly more volatile, but weirdly not that much, because the institutions and the stability of the democracy was such that people sort of believed that there would be a healthy outcome and an eventual peaceful transfer of power. I do believe that's going to be the case here again, because again, you got to have the American military on your side if you're trying to hijack a democracy and take it into an autocracy. Mr. Trump clearly does not have that. You could Google this. There's already been news reports about it. The Secret Service has already talked to the U.S. Marine Corps. They're the two main organizations that protect the 18 acres known as the White House and the old Executive Office building. And they've already had the conversation. If he's not leaving, who's taking him out of here? And it'll be the Secret Service. So, but I think it's sort of unsettling. And the problem with Mr. Trump is that we're sort of anesthetized now to his behavior. So when he says outlandish things on Twitter, or he says outlandish things at a campaign rally, or even the notion that we're having this conversation is unsettling. We're hoping that he is the outlier for this sort of outlandish behavior. And we're hoping that we'll get a return of normalcy. Either that'll be in the next several months, or it'll be 4 years plus several months, but we'll hopefully return to normalcy. I think what I'm more worried about, Zach, is the system. What I'm more worried about, and I think the people on this call and people around the world should be worried about, is we have fractured the system, whether it's in the UK, France, the United States, perhaps other parts of the world, where we've separated the haves from the have-nots to the extent where the have-nots are actually very angry about it. And so Mr. Trump actually represents an avatar for blue-collar, lower middle income anger. It's predominantly white. It's predominantly in manufacturing areas that have been blighted by globalization. And so what I would submit to everybody on this call, even if Mr. Trump leaves the stage next week or in the next several months, we have a system crisis that has to be cured. These politicians represent something. They reflect what's going on in the society. So when you're Brexiting in the United Kingdom, it's a reflection of what's going on in the society. There's a reflection of some level of discontent or feeling that people are left out of the system. Moreover, when you think about these conspiracy theories, whether it's the QAnon conspiracy theory, apparently half of Mr. Trump's supporters believe in that conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theories derive from people not wanting to blame themselves for their circumstances. And so what ends up happening is they say, yeah, it is those people at the top. They're the ones that are hijacking my life. They're the ones that are making me miserable. And there must be a conspiracy designed to do that. And so one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get responsible leadership, people in positions of power that can help those people. And I will just say this, everybody, and I think you know a good part of my life story, Zach, because we've gotten together many times, but I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood. My dad was a hourly worker. He was a crane operator, 42 years working as a crane operator, but we had a reasonably good middle-class lifestyle. It was high wages for blue collar people in the beginning part of the post-industrial era of World War II. We've converted most of this economy into a service economy. That job that my dad had, that sand mine that he was using that crane at, is now a public golf course. There are fewer jobs like that today in 2020. But let's say that you could get that job. Well, it turns out that that job is, in terms of real economic wages, is down about 26% over the last 40 years. So that family of five that my father raised, and I would never dishonor him by telling anybody that I was raised poor. I was not. I grew up resoundingly in the American middle class. But that very same family today in 2020 could not do that on that one person's wage, given the wage disparity and the compression of those wages in terms of a cost of living. So there's pain. You're going from a generation, the generation I grew up in, which was economically aspirational and the blue collar families. Some of us, my dad used to tell us, go to school, go to college, you're going to live a good part of the American dream. But those very same families that were aspirational 3 decades ago have been converted into desperational. And so you can feel that anxiety. I don't try to demonize Mr. Trump. There are good attributes to him. I will tell you that I was on 71 campaign stops with him in 2016, and I was moved by the people that were at those rallies that feel left out of the system. I don't think it's fair to call them racist or deplorable. I think it's fair to acknowledge that there is a systemic problem. Mr. Trump is the wrong messenger for them. He is the wrong policy wonk for them. I mean, it's sort of ironic. He's obviously not a policy wonk. He's done nothing to really solve their problems, but they like him because he is sticking a finger in the eye of people on Wall Street. He's sticking a finger in the eye of the American elites and obviously the global media.